Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello and welcome to the fifth lecture in the course on blockchain. So far we have seen the fundamentals of blockchain, what it is, how it works, what can it do. We looked at cryptography, we looked at different types of blockchains, and we also looked at one of the killer applications which makes blockchains much more useful in the real world than just a ledger of records. And in this session we will look at the basic phenomenon which gave rise to blockchains, and probably even today the biggest source of applications of blockchains, that is cryptocurrencies. As we all know, blockchains came into existence due to founding of the cryptocurrency, the founding cryptocurrency called Bitcoin. That is the one which first implemented blockchains, which have spread everywhere. There are a number of cryptocurrencies and new ones are coming by the day. Probably in terms of the public imagery, cryptocurrencies are the ones which have the most mind share, and most of them, not all of them, but most of them do deploy a blockchain as their foundational technology. So, we will look at cryptocurrencies in this class, and as always let us start with a definition. A cryptocurrency, one word or a two word, crypto and currency, is a digital asset designed to work as a medium of exchange that uses strong cryptography to secure financial transactions, control the creation of additional units, and verify the transfer of assets. This I have taken from Wikipedia, commonly used source. So, a cryptocurrency is a digital asset. It is not a physical currency in the sense that there is a note or a coin or something like that. It exists in the form of a digital file or a string of numbers. It is designed to work as a medium of exchange. We will see in a later slide what are the purposes of money, and one of them, money serves as a medium of exchange. When I want to, we no longer work in a barter economy. In a barter economy, I give you item A and you give me item B in return. So, there is nothing in between. Instead, now I sell you item A, you give me money in return. I use money to buy item B from somebody else, somewhere else, sometime else. So, money serves as a medium of exchange. That is one of the purposes that cryptocurrencies are designed to serve, as a medium of exchange. There are other uses also, we will see them. It uses strong cryptography. Again, blockchain itself uses cryptography, and cryptocurrency depends on that. Cryptocurrency essentially exists as a cryptographic string, cryptographic file to secure financial transactions. Remember, we are talking about money, so money secures. Money works in financial transactions, and cryptocurrencies control the creation of additional units. That is, money supply, this is a bit of economists would explain to us that money supply has to keep up to match the economic activity. Otherwise, we will end up with what they call as deflation. On the other hand, if money supply increases more than economic activity, what would they call it as? Inflation. So, to avoid deflation, the cryptocurrency controls the creation of additional units. More and more cryptocurrency is issued to match the amount of activity. In real life, the money supply, amount of notes that are printed, coins that are minted, are controlled by a central bank. Here we will see that the underlying blockchain and consensus algorithm ensures that, and verify the transfer of assets. They serve, the cryptocurrencies keep a record. Like in real life, if I buy a car from somebody, the car will be registered from the name of that person to my name, and money will be transferred from my account to that person's account. So, assets are being transferred. One asset that is being transferred is a car which is registered to my name. The other asset which is being transferred is money which will be transferred to other person. Cryptocurrencies are designed to handle that also. So, they are designed as a medium of exchange, secure financial transactions, create additional units, and also verify the transfer of assets. That is a very crisp definition of cryptocurrency. More generally, if you are talking generally, they do many more things than these. Cryptocurrencies are digital assets designed to fulfill all the characteristics of fiat currency. Currency issued by a central authority like the Reserve Bank or the Federal Reserve, guaranteed by them for its value, are what are called fiat currencies. They are currencies issued by fiat or by order. Cryptocurrencies are opposed to that, and fiat currencies exist in a physical form and cryptocurrencies exist in digital form. They exist in digital form and their integrity is secured by cryptography, something that was covered in the definition also. Third, cryptocurrencies are fully decentralized and not under the control of any single agency, national or private. As we have been saying, in the case of blockchain, it is distributed and decentralized. There is no single. The most common variety of blockchain, public permissionless blockchain, are fully decentralized and distributed. There is no one single owner. Everybody in the system owns that. Cryptocurrencies are exactly that. Though now we are seeing that private parties also are issuing cryptocurrencies which are owned by one party, one single party or one single group of owners. Compared to them, traditionally what we call cryptocurrency like Bitcoin, they are fully decentralized and they are not under the control of, they are under the control of everyone, not under the control of any single party. Another characteristic of cryptocurrencies is that for every unit of the currency issued, whether it is a Bitcoin or Ethereum or Litecoin or Ripple or any other currency, any dog coin, so many coins are coming out in the market, the provenance of origin and ownership as well as traceability of transactions are maintained by a blockchain. Most of them are built on a blockchain, and thanks to that, if there are 5 million bitcoins in the world today, there are more than that. For example, let us take a number like 5 million bitcoins in the market. We at any point should be able to go back and find out when this particular coin, every one of them was issued, when was that particular, the provenance of origin, when and how when this coin was issued, and ownership, who had it, who used it to buy something else, into whose hand it passed, how many hands has it passed, and currently who owns this particular. For all 5 million coins, we should be able to trace the origin, the provenance of origin and ownership all the way to when it is founded to where it is today. And if somebody has mined, got the Bitcoin and kept it today, we will be able to see that. Somebody has mined, sold it to somebody, that person used it for something else, that person sold it to somebody, and in nth hand it is today, we should be able to trace all the steps. This tracing everything to back its to origin, tracing every transaction, every coin back to its origin is what is referred to as traceability, and blockchain is very good at providing that, because it is a continuous, constantly expanding, immutable register. Yeah, another characteristic of cryptocurrencies as opposed to real life fiat currencies is that money supply, the rate at which the number of coins or number of that unit of that currency increases, is predictable and transparent. We, going back to how RBI or Federal Reserve issue money, we do not know. They may have a committee, they may have a set of policies which change from time to time. The committee might advise the bank on the rate at which to issue currency, when to issue more, when to issue less, but something that is not fully transparent to all of us. It is based on some rationale, some logic, may not be transparent to all of us. In contrast, in the case of cryptocurrencies, money supply, we know when, how much of this currency is going to be issued, we know how it is going to be issued and why it is going to be issued. To go back to Bitcoin's example, it gets issued when blocks are mined. When every block of Bitcoin blockchain is mined, 12 coins get released as of today. And due to the nature of how some of these early cryptocurrencies have been issued, they tend to be deflationary. By what do I mean by that? In the case of Bitcoin, in the case of other coins too, the number of coins issued at some point stops. If the Bitcoin algorithm reaches its end, approximately about 21 million Bitcoins will be issued in all, no more. After that, all the activities that are going on, if more and more people use Bitcoin for various transactions, the number of Bitcoins is not increasing at the rate at which the economic activity is increasing. So, the value of items in terms of Bitcoin keeps reducing. If Bitcoin plateaus at 21 million and if it gets very popular and people use it for various activities to buy, sell, buy other things, invest various things, an item which costs 1 Bitcoin today after a period of 10 years may end up costing half a Bitcoin, because number of supply of Bitcoins is not increasing, the activities which is used to is increasing. In contrast, most fiat currencies tend to be, it is a very generic statement, tend to be slightly inflationary. We always keep complaining about inflation, right? The cost of items keep increasing every year. In this world, because of their design, the way they were designed, quite a few of the cryptocurrencies tend to be deflationary. The cost of items in the terms of that currency goes down over a period of time, or the currency gains more value when compared to other fiat currencies in the world. It need not be so, but most of the early cryptocurrencies were designed that way, and that is the effect of that. And one of the characteristics of blockchain in general, I mentioned in the very first lecture, is that blockchain and the transactions on blockchain tend to be pseudonymous. They are not fully anonymous, they are pseudonymous. That is, whatever name somebody does a transaction with need not be their actual identity. I might claim to be Mahatma Gandhi in the Bitcoin world. No, you cannot trace it back to Mahatma Gandhi. If somebody else claims to be Sudhendar Hanumantha, you cannot trace it back to me. The connection is not fully firm. So, it is, but all the transactions done by Sudhendar Hanumantha over a period of time can be traced back to this one particular account, this one particular person. We assume that it is a person, traced back to this one particular account. So, you can always say how many transactions and what transactions were done by Sudhendar Hanumantha. It is not necessarily this particular Sudhendar Hanumantha. So, they are not fully anonymous, nor are they fully transparent. So, they are referred to as pseudonymous. That same characteristic extends to cryptocurrencies also. If somebody buys Bitcoin, somebody buys Ethereum, somebody buys Litecoin, it is very difficult to pin it down to who exactly is the person who bought it, but all transactions done by this account, we can at best say this particular account bought Bitcoins, sold Bitcoin, bought some items, traded it for something else. So, we will be able to trace it back to one particular account, but we will not be able to pin it down to any particular individual. And cryptocurrencies, digital currencies in general, have a problem what is called double spending. Digital currencies in general, digital assets in general, exist in the form of a set of string of numbers, a file which is a set of numbers. Now, if this is a digital currency and if I buy something, you accept it, you accept my digital currency to sell me a pizza, for example. If I will send you a copy of the file, that is why I am going to, in the case of physical world, if I buy pizza, I give a set of currency notes. Once I give them, it is no longer with there, the currency notes are no longer with me. Once I do it by an online transaction, that amount of money will be taken away, that number will be reduced in my banking account, and that is how it gets added to your account. If I give you in terms of coins, same story. Here, if I hand over that file of numbers which denotes that particular digital asset, I still can have a copy. As we know, information can be copied with no loss. We can make any number of movies, any number of files, any number of songs without any loss to the original file. That is one of the characteristics of information, and that is a problem with digital assets in general, digital currencies in general. If I send you that file, I can still have it, and unless it is tracked, I can use it elsewhere. If somebody does not know that I have already given you a copy of my digital coin, they may be fooled into accepting the coin that I still have, the copy of the file I still have. This is referred to as the problem of double spending. More than that, if I have a currency, I can spend it multiple times till I am stopped. Cryptocurrencies address that. How do they address that? By tracking the transaction, all the way to the origin. So, if I bought a Bitcoin, for example, 2 months back, it is there on record, that I bought it from person A or exchange A. So, that person's A's account will be reduced by 1 and I will be shown as the current account, current owner of this particular Bitcoin. So, you will always be able to see who is the latest current owner of that particular asset, and that will be the true owner. All the previous owners, it may show on the record that this person owns this particular coin, but as of now no more, somebody else has it. And by proving traceability all the way to the origin and tracking each and every transaction, cryptocurrencies address this problem of double spending. So, if I buy some item from you based on I give you one Ethereum for that, or a Bitcoin for that, or a Litecoin for that, the moment I do that, the owner on the coin will be changed to your name. My name will be removed. So, I cannot no longer present that particular coin to somebody else. That person can always go back and verify that I was not the current owner, I was the last owner or the previous owner. So, that is how cryptocurrencies address this problem of, for a long time, addressing this issue of double spending was a big problem in digital currencies, in digital cash. Cryptocurrencies effectively address that issue. There is no issue of double spending. And as we know, one of the requirements in the global world is exchanging currencies. We have all these foreign exchange bureaus and governments themselves. RBI, for example, every day publishes at what rate it is going to buy dollars. If you go and give it dollars to RBI and want rupees in return, RBI publishes the rate every day, at what rate it is going to buy those dollars. On the other hand, I can also give rupees to a bank and get dollars instead. RBI publishes that rate also. It publishes a buying rate, it publishes a selling rate. While traveling, some of you might have seen currency exchanges at airports. So, they will take one currency. If I am in Paris and if I need to buy something in the local airport with cash, I can give them rupees or dollars, and they give a predetermined number of French francs for that. And when I am done with my shopping, I am still left with some more francs, I can go back and get an exchange. For each of these activities, they charge a commission, of course, and a differential rate. So, one of the essential characteristics or requirements of money is that it should be exchangeable between different currencies. In the world of cryptocurrency, they are in the form of a digital asset. They do not really match up with a physical asset somewhere. So, lot of exchanges have sprung up, lot of cryptocurrency exchanges have sprung up, which not only exchange between two cryptocurrencies. For example, I can go to one of them, buy Bitcoin using Ethereum. I have Ether, the Ether currency from Ethereum. I can use that to buy Bitcoin at these exchanges. They do the interchange at some predetermined rate. I can also buy and sell regular currencies, like I can buy Bitcoin using rupees, dollars and other fiat currencies. If I want to sell my Bitcoins, I can also go to one of these exchanges and convert my digital currency, cryptocurrency into fiat currency. Typically, this is outside the blockchain. This exchange happens outside the ambit of the blockchain. The exchange takes care of changing the name on the cryptocurrency from the past owner to the current owner. And next, as we know, with Bitcoin, we cannot go back and change a entry. So, transactions in the Bitcoin world, in the cryptocurrency world, are irreversible. Once I send you that Bitcoin, I cannot go back and change it. It permanently goes into you. And likewise, as we also mentioned earlier, as I have mentioned earlier, if I lose that digital file for whatever reason without a backup, I cannot recover. That loss also is irreversible. Cryptocurrencies may allow you to put smart cards and smart contracts on top of the blockchain, like Ether does. So, we can make sure that when we use these cryptocurrencies for regular outside world, where along with the currency there may be an exchange of goods or services, we can link the two using smart contracts. Again, going back to the example of pizza, we will know that when I buy pizza using cryptocurrency, I should be able to ensure that I do the transfer after receiving the item, the pizza in my case. And internationally, across governments, because of these various differences between cryptocurrencies and regular fiat currencies, cryptocurrencies are regulated in various ways in different countries. Some countries are very liberal and open in terms of what cryptocurrencies can be used. They almost let you use cryptocurrency like a regular currency. Some countries completely ban that. For example, in India recently, the Reserve Bank has actually banned the use of cryptocurrencies for any transactions. In some countries, they are in between. They do not let you use as a currency, nor do they ban it. They use cryptocurrency, or they rather let you use cryptocurrency like a asset or a security, like the way you buy stocks and shares. When I buy a share or a stock, what I get is a number or a share certificate essentially. I am paying money and getting a number or a share certificate, and that is traded. I can trade it to you for money. I can buy different stocks with this stock on an exchange, you sell and buy something else, and finally I can convert stock back to money, but I cannot use stock in the outside world, outside the stock exchange to buy things. I have to do all these things inside the stock market, the stock exchange. That is the place where I can convert money into a tradable asset and convert that asset. If when it gains, I gain. If a stock price goes up, I gain. Stock price goes down, I lose. But outside, if I want to use the value of this particular stock, if I have 10 shares of Reliance and I want to buy something of that value, I actually have to go to the stock exchange, sell that those 10 shares of Reliance, get rupees in return, go spend that. So, some countries let cryptocurrencies be used like that. They let you buy, sell, trade cryptocurrencies within the exchange as a asset. It is not valid for transactions. I cannot, for example, pay my taxes in terms of paying them in terms of Bitcoin or Ether or something like that, though apparently some countries are trying, some countries are accepting that some of these government expenses can also be paid in the form of cryptocurrencies. So, there are varying degrees of legality. So, even in some countries, but no country allows it as a legal tender. That means, I contract to buy something from you by paying you in cryptocurrency. You do not fulfill the obligation, you take my cryptocurrency, do not fulfill the obligation, I cannot sue you in court. If I am using legal currency, if I am paying you in rupees, dollars, francs and pounds, you do not fulfill the obligation of the contract, I can take you to court. In most countries that is not accepted, that if I buy something you go back and I have no way of suing you. So, to avoid that, we implement a smart contract which helps us get around in a cryptocurrency world. These are some of the general characteristics of most cryptocurrencies. Though there is a very precise definition, more generally these are the characteristics of the various cryptocurrencies. So, let us compare that with regular money. I mentioned one of the functions of money is as a medium of exchange, that is, we should be able to convert goods and services into money, use that same money for buying different goods and different services. So, instead of exchanging items themselves, I can convert it into this middle asset and use that back to buy and sell. So, one of the functions of money is as a medium of exchange. The second function of money is as a store of value. If I have 100 rupees today, that same currency note, RBI guarantees that is still worth 100 rupees 10 years from now. The nominal value written on it, it acts as a, so I can store all my assets. Instead of having 5 tons of rice at my home or 1 kilo of gold, I can convert that is an asset. I can convert that and put it in money instead. It still serves the same purpose. If I turn out to be lucky and I have 1 kg of gold and I sell it and get 30 lakhs, I can keep 30 lakhs with me. The value of that set of currency notes and all, or if I put it in my bank account, the value of that money in my bank account remains the same. It holds that value. I mean, due to inflation it loses and things like that, but in general money is designed as a store of value. Third, we use money to measure value of things, that if there is a shirt worth 300 rupees here and another company has a shirt worth 500 rupees, it is automatic that this shirt is more valuable than this shirt because it costs more in terms of money. So, we use money to measure the value of 2 different items. So, these are the 3 purposes. And how do cryptocurrencies do on these measures? First, as a medium of exchange, I use this cryptocurrency to buy and sell items. That depends on how many people are willing to accept that. So, in terms of acceptability today, about approximately 2 million sellers accept Bitcoin, some rough number, whereas number of merchants who accept Litecoin is far lesser. So, along those terms, Bitcoin serves as a better medium of exchange than Litecoin, for example, but it is not universal. Unlike fiat currency, which can be used anywhere, we can convert it into any currency anywhere and use it there. Cryptocurrencies are not universally used as a medium of exchange. They are by it, and the number is increasing, but not universally. The second function, store of value. Here many of the cryptocurrencies have a better record, in the sense that if I buy a Bitcoin of value today, which is worth say $8,000, 6 months later it is still worth something. The value is still there, but that value is fluctuating wildly. In case of fiat currencies, real currencies, the various banks, the Reserve Bank, Federal Bank and all, try to hold the value of the currency fairly steady. They do not let them appreciate or depreciate drastically. They guarantee those values to hold them as stable as possible. In case of cryptocurrencies, unfortunately it is not there. In that sense, they are more like a stock or a share. The value can depend widely depending on what the market is willing to pay, but nevertheless they do function as a store of value. They may function as a appreciating store of value, or they may also function as a depreciating store of value. As a measure of value is linked to the second point. Can we use Bitcoin to measure the value of two different shirts? Two conditions are necessary. That is, the two merchants who are selling this shirt should be willing to accept that they are willing to accept Bitcoin for that. If both of them accept Bitcoin in exchange for me buying that shirt, then I can say that yes, this shirt costing 550 rupees, which is something in Bitcoin, is more valuable than this shirt costing 300 rupees, which is linked to number 1. That is, more people accept it as a medium of exchange, more will be its usage as a measure of value. And one other characteristic which is not mentioned is money should be divisible. That is, to some extent a unit of money we should be able to, we can always multiply it more, that particular unit of money should also be dividable into smaller units. If you want to buy smaller units, we should be able to do that. Fiat currency, for example, a rupee is divisible to 100 paise, a dollar is divisible into 100 cents. On that scale, cryptocurrencies are far granular, more superior. For example, a Bitcoin is divisible into 100 millionth of it. That is, the basic unit of transaction that a Bitcoin blockchain recognizes is 100 millionth of a Bitcoin, 1 followed by 9 zeros and 1. We can't even fathom what a small number is, as compared to what is the lowest unit of a rupee that any institution recognizes? 1 paise. 1/100th of a rupee is the value recognized, lowest value. Bitcoins are, any cryptocurrency are far more divisible. It is one of the characteristics, not one of the major functions, but typically one of the desired characteristics of money. And money is used for transactions, and there are also certain requirements in terms of what conditions that money has to fulfill in terms of transactions. Those set of characteristics are normally defined as ACID. These are used for transactional integrity. If any of you have studied databases, you would have also studied the same term there for transactional integrity. So, what are those? A, every transaction should be atomic. That is, if we exchange, if I sell one Bitcoin to you for in terms of another coin, only that particular Bitcoin changes. It is atomic, does not change. It is divisible, but that unit stays 1. Second, consistent. Same thing with fiat currency also. If I give you 100 rupees, it is always 100 rupees. Nothing else, no other value, no other note is affected by that. It is atomic, the atomic unit is 1 rupee or 100 rupee or whatever it is, only that unit gets exchanged. Second is consistent. Every time we do the transaction, assuming the rates remain the same, every time I buy the pizza, I pay you 100 rupees. Every time I buy a pizza using Bitcoin, I pay you 0.01 Bitcoin. The transactions, if we do n number of times, the net result will be the same, assuming rates remain constant. Isolated. If we do one transaction, only this particular unit is affected, nothing else get affected. Not only that coin, no account, no other store of value, no other Bitcoin gets affected. Every transaction affects only the two parties involved, no other party, no other asset, no other security is affected by that. If I buy pizza from you using Bitcoin, my stock of Bitcoin goes down, your stock of Bitcoin goes up, I have a pizza on hand, you have one less pizza, nothing else. Nothing else get affected, no other party gets affected, every transaction is isolated and durable. Once the transaction is done, both of us agree that the transaction is done, it is set in stone. You don't, it will persist for forever. Anybody can go and see that this transaction happened and remained that way. All the fiat currencies meet these conditions, cryptocurrencies also meet those 4 transactional conditions. These are conditions too for transactional integrity. It is called ACID: atomic, consistent, isolated and durable. So, cryptocurrencies support all 4 characteristics like fiat currencies. So, now let us look at a few popular cryptocurrency examples. The first thing which comes to mind obviously is Bitcoin. I am sure everybody has heard of it. This was not only the first successful cryptocurrency, it was also the first successful implementation of blockchain. Hence, and it is also the most popular, most capitalized cryptocurrency today. So, for that reason it is very important to study and understand what Bitcoin is. It is the most prevalent cryptocurrency and its value every day it gets reported. It has gone as high as $20,000 per Bitcoin. It has gone down as low, the recent memory it has gone down as low as 2,000, 3,000. Currently it is hovering around 7,000, 8,000, but varies widely. Bitcoin gets traded in currency exchanges and its value depends on what the market is thinking of the currency, and its value is so high and it is so popular that there are other cryptocurrencies whose value is linked to the value of Bitcoin. There is Litecoin, for example, there are other coins. The value of those coins is linked to the value of Bitcoin. If Bitcoin value rises, these coins maybe say 1/100th of a Bitcoin. So, if Bitcoin is $8,000, value of these coins which are essentially riding piggyback on Bitcoin will be 1/100th of that, $80. If it goes up to $8,500, this currency will go up to 85. If it comes down to 7,500, the value of the other currency comes down to $75. So, Bitcoin is so popular that there are other currencies which are linked to the value of Bitcoin. They have been spawned, those currencies have been created for various reasons, one of them being that Bitcoin is so expensive. So, instead of spending so much money on buying one Bitcoin, I spend 1/100th of that and get the same benefits. Many people buy Bitcoin in the expectation that its value will increase over time. So, like a stock or a share, then we can sell it for a higher profit. These coins also provide the same benefits at a lower per unit cost. Bitcoin is well accepted, as I mentioned, almost 2-3 million merchants accept Bitcoin as currency, and it supports micropayments. That is, supports 1/100th million of a Bitcoin, 0.9 zeros and 1. That is the smallest payment you can make using Bitcoin. Again, in comparison, the smallest payment we can do with the Indian currency is 1 paise, 1/100th of a rupee. This is 100 millionth of a Bitcoin, and this can have a very significant effect on commerce and business. Consider, for example, I would like to read many of the popular journals, say Wall Street Journal, New York Times. There are certain Indian sites also like Money Control. They charge for articles, and per year they do not sell me article by article. They sell me an annual subscription costing $50, $45 or whatever it is, some number like that. But I am not interested in reading every article. I go to New York Times to read their reporting on world news. I go to Wall Street Journal to read news on financial information. Wall Street Journal does have information, they even review wines, they cover various sports events. I do not go to Wall Street Journal to get that news. I just want to focus into certain financial news, especially those pertaining to India. But today I do not have a choice. I have to pay a flat amount like $50, which is a significant amount for me, and go for whole hog. Now, if the same thing were to be traded in Bitcoin and say they want to charge me 5 cents per article, 5 cents in the dollar world is very low, very few transactions are worth doing that, but in terms of Bitcoin, I don't know, it may come to 0.00001 Bitcoin, for example, let us say, I am just taking a number. It is possible, it is worthwhile. Bitcoin cost of transaction is so cheap that I can pay 0.0001 Bitcoin and read 500 articles in a year, which will be 500 times that, which comes to a significant number in dollars. Such a transaction is not worth in the dollar world, because if I read only one article per year, I owe Wall Street Journal 5 cents, it is not worth the transaction. Cost of effecting the transaction, cost of taking 5 cents from my account, depositing it into Wall Street Journal's account, maybe more than that in the process. So, that is why they tend to send me a whole package, but Bitcoin and any other cryptocurrency support such micro payments. So, it can completely change the way we buy and sell things. So, now I do not have to subscribe for the entire thing. I can read one article here, one article from Financial Times. I go to iTunes, buy for just 5 songs, or iTunes is selling songs today, so it has brought micro payments there, but I can buy less popular songs for less money. So, Bitcoin is very good for micro payments. You write a blog, you can sell your blog now. Today nobody is willing to pay you 50 rupees per blog, but you accept 0.001 Bitcoins. Many people will read your blog, like it, and pay you a micro payment. Next, we know that Bitcoin is based on a public permissionless blockchain, the very first variety of that, and the blockchain is maintained by people who contribute their effort to adding more blocks, who are called, the process is called mining, they are called miners, and they receive an incentive based on proof of work. That is, you have to do a fixed amount of computing effort, which takes computing power and all. You do it correctly, you do your calculations and do it first. You do it first, you present it to the Bitcoin community. If the community arrives at a consensus that it is a valid block, you are shown that you have shown the proof of work, you get the opportunity to add that block to the Bitcoin blockchain and you get rewarded. So, incentive scheme is proof of work. So, it is built by miners who solve a mathematical and computationally intensive algorithm. The net effect of it is they capture certain number of transactions, roughly it is about 15,000 transactions currently, between 15 and 20, and you calculate the hash of that, calculate the hash of the whole transactions, calculate the hash of the block, calculate the hash of the previous one, calculate the nonce, and if you are successful, if consensus selects you as the miner who can add the next block, you add the next block. That is how the Bitcoin blockchain keeps growing. Currently, it is estimated to be about 100 gigabytes in size. The Bitcoin blockchain has become so enormous because of all the transactions going in, amount of activity it is used for. Its size currently as of today is expected to be about 100 gigabit. Everybody in the Bitcoin blockchain will have a copy of the Bitcoin database. All of us, we can always go download the Bitcoin software, download the database, and we can start mining. We can use it for transactions, we can verify other transactions, we can start mining, and whenever any block gets added to any single any particular instance of the Bitcoin blockchain, it gets propagated to everyone, it gets synchronized with everybody, and every transaction is verified by consensus. That is, all the stakeholders who are alive at that point, active at that point, agree that this is a valid transaction or disagree. If more than half of them agree, the transaction and the block becomes valid and gets added. And next question, this is what leads to inflation. It is limited to total issuance of 21 million Bitcoins. Let us go back and revisit how Bitcoins are created. Bitcoins, how do I acquire Bitcoins, for example? One way is I can pay dollars and buy Bitcoins in the exchange. Second way is I sell you some item, I sell you a pizza, you pay me in Bitcoins. These are Bitcoins which already exist. To give me the Bitcoin, or when I have to buy the Bitcoin, some other party should be having the Bitcoin already. How do new Bitcoins get created? They get created in the process of mining. That is, whenever somebody successfully adds a block to the Bitcoin, successfully mines a block, they are paid a reward in form of Bitcoin itself. So, whenever a block gets added, mining happens successfully, 12.5 Bitcoins get added to the system, the ecosystem. If I do mine successfully, 12.5 Bitcoins are registered in my name. The interesting thing about it is, on a predictable basis, over a period of every 2 to 3 years based on number of bitcoins already in the market, the reward is getting halved. That is, as of today it is 12.5 bitcoins per block. About 2 to 3 years back it was 25 bitcoins a block, and another 2 to 3 years back, depending on number of bitcoins in the system, the number of reward comes back to 6.25. Slowly it reduces over a period of time and it hits a plateau, it hits a block at 21 million bitcoins. That is, if the bitcoin is completely, if all the bitcoins are completely issued, then there will be total of 21 million bitcoins in the Bitcoin world. And as I mentioned earlier, economists probably will give a better explanation than I can. If more items are being bought and sold with only 21 million bitcoins in the total universe, the value of bitcoin in terms of items goes up, or the value of items in terms of bitcoin slowly starts going down. So, if it at $8,000 today, to buy a car I may need about, for a car for $20,000 I may need 2.5 bitcoins today. After deflation over a period of time, if due to shortage of bitcoins in the market, if the price of bitcoin goes down to $20,000, I can buy a car with 1 bitcoin. And this deflationary characteristic is built into bitcoin. Over a period of time it might become a bottleneck in using bitcoin in the commercial world. There are various other coins which are trying to address this issue of how do we make it non-deflationary. And thanks to the amount of transactions and the hit on performance, Bitcoin's performance has always been an issue. Any transaction done now gets reflected only 10 minutes later. So, in that 10 minutes, if somebody wants to commit a fraud, they can, theoretically, because if I buy something using my current Bitcoin, it goes, I go to somebody else and give the same Bitcoin number. When that fellow goes and verifies, this transaction will take 10 minutes to go in. So, in that period, if anybody goes and checks, that Bitcoin still shows my name. So, potentially later on it will get reverted, the transaction will get rejected because the timestamp on this transaction is after the timestamp of the first transaction, but in between little bit of misuse can be done, one of the issues. So, for that purpose Bitcoin has been forked. There are two separate types of Bitcoins today, Bitcoin Classic and Bitcoin Cash, and they are both following. There is a lot of discussion and arguments happening in the Bitcoin world as to how to address some of these problems, where to go next and things like that. That is of only an academic interest to those of us who are not owners of Bitcoin. And Bitcoin, and lastly, Bitcoin is heavily suspected of being used for illegal activities like money laundering, buying drugs, buying arms and all. Thanks to its pseudonymous nature and thanks to its popularity, it is being accepted across the world, and it's pseudonymous, no single authority controls any of the transactions, it is being widely suspected. So, that is one more reason many countries are wary of accepting or making any cryptocurrency legal, Bitcoin included. The next major and the next more popular cryptocurrency, that is about Bitcoin. The next more popular cryptocurrency is called Ethereum. Ethereum is slightly different from Bitcoin, we will see how, but if we strictly compare them as cryptocurrencies, after Bitcoin, Ethereum is the second most popular cryptocurrency in terms of the value, in terms of amount of trading, in terms of acceptability. It is pretty much second after Bitcoin, but there is a big margin between them. Ethereum is also based on a public permissionless blockchain exactly like Bitcoin, and it has its own currency called Ether. Bitcoin is a currency, Ethereum is the blockchain, it has a currency called Ether. Ethereum also started in its incentive scheme being a proof of work model, but it is shifting over into a proof of stake. In the previous talk we compared the two, there are certain advantages to proof of stake. So, Ethereum is moving away to proof of stake. It has a piece of software called Ethereum virtual machine, we will see the importance of this, which is in IT terms we call them as a runtime model running on the client. I do not know how many of you have noticed, sometimes if you are freshly installed a browser At certain times you may get a message that JRE is out of date or JRE is not linked. In case of Java, JRE is the runtime model. Somebody develops, the program is running on the server, the same program shows on my screen in my browser thanks to Java runtime engine. Similar to that is the EVM, Ethereum Virtual Machine. It is a client runtime model to support execution of its blockchain and its transactions. In addition, Ethereum, the EVM, Bitcoin is one blockchain. There can be no second Bitcoin. I mean, now it has been forked, it has been made into two separate blockchains, but at any point there is only one Bitcoin, there will not be a second Bitcoin. It cannot be used to develop something else, though things have been developed piggybacking on Bitcoin. Unlike that, Ethereum can be used to build new blockchains. The Ethereum virtual machine, the language it provides. So, Ethereum is not only a blockchain by itself with its own currency Ether, I can use the tools it provides to build my own separate blockchain for a different purpose. It may have nothing to do with cryptocurrency, but I can use the Ethereum's tools, especially the EVM, and Ethereum supports smart contracts. It has its own language, write smart contracts. It is called Solidity, and using Solidity I can write smart. Bitcoin when it came out did not support smart contracts. Ethereum supports smart contracts. The way I write smart contract is to use its computing language. You all must be familiar of languages, right, like Java, C, C++, Visual Basic. Ethereum has its own language called Solidity. Using that I can develop smart contracts to write on top of Ethereum contracts or Ethereum transactions. Ethereum had initially, historically had some problem with hacking, and it got forked once, it got hacked, Currencies has been lost, but constantly it is being improved by a group of developers and group of organizations. It is becoming much more secure and solid as we go, and thanks to its flexibility it is getting widely adopted. Since Ethereum can be used, they have developed other blockchains. Lot of organizations are supporting Ethereum. They are supporting that you can use develop blockchain using the Ethereum tools, and it can be used for developing permission blockchains. It's a permissionless blockchain by itself, but we can use the tools, the Ethereum virtual machine and the platform, to develop permission blockchains also. There is a lot of industry support. Because of this capability, Ethereum has a lot of industry support. There is a group called Ethereum Enterprise Alliance. A bunch of top companies like Microsoft, HP, Oracle, Google, banks like JP Morgan, they all have joined together to constantly keep improving this, constantly keeping offering more and more tools to help us build new blockchains using the Ethereum engine, and specifically Microsoft supports Ethereum on its Azure cloud platform. Microsoft has a cloud engine or a cloud platform called Azure. On that you can go on Azure, build your own blockchains using the Ethereum platform. In that sense, it has very wide non-cryptocurrency applications as compared to Bitcoin, but as a cryptocurrency also it is the second most popular cryptocurrency. The third example is Ripple. Ripple in the classical sense is not a cryptocurrency actually, it is more of a payment system, a funds transfer network. In fact, it's most often compared to the Hawala system. I know in many countries Hawala is used as a bad word, but historically Hawala has been a very legitimate payment money transfer network. The way Hawala works is, there is one agent in country A, another agent in country B. Somebody wants to send money from country A to country B, so he goes to the agent in country A, that agent accepts the money, sends a message to this fellow. There is a trust between these two parties. The agent in country A trusts the agent in country B, he sends a message to this fellow, I have accepted so much of currency, so much of money, you make the payment there. So, based on the exchange rate and the commission rate they have accepted and all, after taking away all the commissions, the agent in country B pays the money to the other party in country B. So, this entire transaction happens by faith, and agents A and no money exchanges for the transaction, just a message exchanges. What they do typically at fixed periods, once a month, once a year, whatever it is, they add up all the transactions and pay the balance. if it turns out that after the effect of 6 months agent A owes agent B 1 million rupees, he will do the transfer then. Likewise, when agent B owns money to agent A, they square up the accounts once in a while. The problem is these transactions are not reported to authorities in many countries. That is why authorities do not look kindly at Hawala. But before currency became a national asset, currency became a nationally controlled asset, Hawala was being used historically for funds transfer. The Ripple model is very similar to that. That is, the money transfer happens actually between any two trusting parties. No actual money happens, it gets settled once in a while, only messages do get transferred, and individuals can use these trusted agents to transfer money at a lower cost, faster rate of transaction and things like that. So, Ripple is essentially a payments and funds transfer network. Any currency can be transferred, but however, Ripple has its own cryptocurrency, that is why we look at it as a cryptocurrency platform also. So, it has a cryptocurrency called XRP. Typically, this is the third most popular one. So, instead of me transferring dollars to somebody in some other country, I can use Ripple to buy XRP, pay them in XRP, and the party on the other side can sell XRP to some party and get the equivalent fiat currency. And Ethereum, Ripple is a network. It is not a blockchain, it is actually a network. There is a network of trusting agents all over the world, and as it happens, many of them are turning out to be banks. It is considered a legitimate payment mechanism. So, many banks and exchanges and various other financial institutions are all becoming part of the Ripple network. To take one example, say Barclays Bank is part of the Ripple network. Likewise, in India, S Bank is actually a part of the Ripple network. Since they are both part of the Ripple network, before becoming parts of the Ripple network, they establish a trust relationship. Any message coming from Barclays, it may go through a third party, it may go through a French bank, it may go through a German bank like Deutsche Bank and then come to S Bank. But since all of them have signed up with Ripple, for example, X Bank trusts Deutsche Bank, Deutsche Bank trusts the French bank and French bank trusts Barclays Bank, any transaction, any money sent by S Bank to Barclays Bank gets transmitted because each party trusts the other and the chain continues. So, if S Bank says pay this party in England 600 pounds, I have accepted equivalent money here, Barclays Bank does pay because it trusts the French bank, the Indo-Suez Bank, the French bank trusts Deutsche Bank, Deutsche Bank trusts S Bank, that is how the money trail goes. So, Ripple is a network consisting of connected trusting nodes, are also called gateways. But instead of sending pounds or any other currency, we can also transact. I can convert it into Ripple, the XRP currency, it's a cryptocurrency that travels through the network, gets paid to the other party. So, users transfer funds using the nearest gateway. In India, S Bank is a member of Ripple. So, I can go to S Bank, pay them the money, that gets transferred to any other party wherever I want. The gateways handle the funds transfer and currency conversion. Any rates, difference in rates and all are handled by the gateways. Ripple's main attraction is, other than being a very secure network, transactions are very fast. The moment I deposit money here, it can be paid to other party in a matter of seconds, not 10 minutes or longer like in the case of Bitcoin, and cost of transaction also is very low. The commissions charged the various nodes in the Ripple network are very low compared to a traditional wire transfer. Today, if I want to transfer pounds to England by paying rupees here, the wire transfer cost can be significant. They can be of the order of $10, $20. By the regular transactional modes, Ripple does it much faster at a much cheaper rate. However, Ripple does, though it is not a blockchain as such, the whole development is done by an organization called Ripple Labs. They maintain a distributed ledger. All transactions do get written into the distributed ledger. As soon as a transaction happens, it gets synchronized among all the trusting nodes of Ripple network. In that sense, it is similar to blockchain, but it is controlled by one organization or a consortium of organizations. It is not a blockchain in the traditional sense. No mining. there is no mining involved. So, XRP is released at a particular rate determined by Ripple Labs, and it cannot be earned by mining like in the case of Bitcoin or even Ethereum. Ethereum also can be mined. So, this is the third very common cryptocurrency. Ripple, as I said, it is slightly different from a cryptocurrency, it is more equivalent to a payment system. However, it has its own cryptocurrency for exchange and transmission. So, these three are the most common cryptocurrencies, and there are so many others, Litecoin, Dogecoin, so many things. And one of the characteristics, one of the things, none of these cryptocurrencies have any sovereign banking. So, if Bitcoin tomorrow goes down to a value of 0, there is nobody guaranteeing that it will hold its value. For 100 rupee, why do I trust this piece of paper saying 100 rupees or 500 rupees? Because the Reserve Bank of India guarantees that. If anything happens, if I tear that, I can get that. RBI guarantees that I will hold the value, it manages the value. With all the cryptocurrencies, it is entirely subject to market forces. So, that is one element of risk in dealing with all the cryptocurrencies. They are not based on any physical asset, they are not linked to anything, they are not linked to the economic activity. It is strictly based on what the market is willing to pay. So, many people, including famous people like Warren Buffett, Jamie Dimon, the head of JP Morgan Chase Bank, all of them have essentially criticized cryptocurrencies. They have used strong words like fraud and things like that because of this feature, that they are not intrinsically linked to any asset, any other asset. So, there is no guarantee that they will not go down in value to 0. So, that is one thing that we need to keep in mind. The value of these currencies totally depends on their acceptability. Their value as a store of value or depends on what people are willing to pay for this currency. Their value as a medium of exchange depends on how many merchants are voluntarily willing to accept these cryptocurrencies. So, for these reasons they have been criticized also. And one thing to keep in mind, whether it is Jamie Dimon or Warren Buffett, they have only criticized cryptocurrencies and not necessarily the blockchain technology. As we will see later, they have heavily deployed blockchain technology, and that is one of the challenges they are trying to address. To go back, most cryptocurrencies today are only functioning as store of value, they are not really functioning as mediums of exchange. The prices are very volatile, subject to market forces. Within a year, the value of Bitcoin has fluctuated from $20,000 to 1 Bitcoin to all the way up to $3,000 per Bitcoin. No fiat currency can survive if the fluctuation is so high. So, a new concept called a stable coin has been designed to address this particular issue. And the interesting thing is, these are cryptocurrencies which exist in a cryptographic form as a cryptographic file. Their value is always linked to a stable asset like a US dollar. A stable coin, if I issue a stable coin, it is a concept. Many people are trying to introduce stable coins, and they all are trying to link it to one outside asset. So, if I issue my own Sudhi coin, a stable coin, I will link it to value of 1 rupee. So, at any point, one Sudhi coin will be equal to the value of 1 rupee. That way, we try to give a guarantee that it is going to hold the value. If rupee fluctuates a little, this fluctuates, no more than that. And it is still a concept, many people are introducing them with different degrees of success, and it will be interesting to watch how this evolves. So, this is a new currency. Next, we will take a look at one such attempt. It is not called a stable coin, but it falls into this category. We will take a look at one such coin, which is not a open market cryptocurrency. It is a cryptocurrency, but in the form of a stable coin linked to a outside asset, outside the blockchain. So, stable coins are an attempt to gain the benefits of both, gain the benefits of cryptocurrency, which essentially will give us very fast transactions, very low cost of transactions, high divisibility and other positive features. At the same time, get around one of the drawbacks, that it is not linked to any other asset, so their values can fluctuate wildly. Instead, make sure that the value of the cryptocurrency is stable and very predictable, because it is linked to the value of some other asset. So, that is the reason, one of the reasons they are named as stable coins. So, in the recent past, as one such currency, they have not called it as a stable coin, but essentially falls into this category, is a cryptocurrency issued by the international bank JP Morgan Chase. JP Morgan Chase is America's biggest bank, and they by various numbers in the press, it handles about $6 trillion of transactions per year. So, enormous amount of transactions. So, for its main customers, it has introduced its own digital coin called the JP Morgan digital coin. The unique characteristic of this is that, of course, it is issued by JP Morgan Chase, a very reputed bank which with enormous assets and goodwill, and its value is considered is always equal to $1. At any point, if I acquire JP Morgan coins in some form, at any point I can take it back to JP Morgan and collect an equivalent amount of dollars. So, that way I have a security that the value of this particular coin will not fluctuate wildly, one day at one high value, next day at a very low value, like it is happening with various other cryptocurrencies. It is always predictable, and I have the assurance that its value is pegged to $1. It works within the JP Morgan system. That is, if I open an account with JP Morgan Chase, I can buy JP Morgan coin at the rate of 1 JP Morgan coin for $1, and I can use it for all transactions. If suppose I am paying a credit card bill, JP Morgan credit card bill, I can pay it within the JP Morgan. I may not be able to pay it with another bank. I want to do money transfer. I want to transfer to another party in UK. I want to transfer $1,000 to some company in US. I can use this coin if they also have an account with JP Morgan. Likewise, any other party anywhere in the world, if they have an account and they have bought JP Morgan coins, they can transfer money to me in the form of JP Morgan coins. They have not specified what is the smallest number they may plan to sell it for, but they have said it is for the large customers. Let us assume that we also qualify for that, and only within the, whenever we want to deal with the outside world, somebody has sent me $1,000, I want to go and buy something outside, I want to buy gold for that value, I need to convert JP Morgan coin back into dollar and then buy whatever item I want to buy here. So, clients in this system deposit regular currency, dollars, rupees, whatever they want to accept, and buy the JP Morgan coin. This can be used for all settlements within the JP Morgan system. In fact, it's probably going to be more useful for those multinationals which have branches in various countries. Let us assume that we have a branch in India, UK and US, US being the parent country. To pay their salaries, the US company can transfer money to both the UK branch and Indian branch using JP Morgan coins. The branches individually convert them into local currencies. The US branch does not have to do two conversions itself. It can just send a JP Morgan coins to all its branches across the world. The branches can do the job of converting back into the local currency. And the main advantage that JP Morgan Chase is saying is speed of settlements. A typical wire transfer takes a day or two at a minimum. Some of the international currency transfers, especially if the currency is not heavily traded, can take up to 2 weeks. The advantage of JP Morgan coin is the transaction can be done in a few seconds. If somebody deposits 5 JP Morgan coins in my account to my account from the US, it reflects in my account here within a few seconds. So, that is the advantage for the big customers. It can mean lot of financial advantages. That is the advantage that JP Morgan Chase is advertising, and possibly the cost of transmission also is likely to be lower. As I mentioned, a wire transfer typically takes an order of $10 to $40. This probably should be much cheaper. It is not known how much they are charging, but that is one of the potential advantages. Thus, we see both the advantages of cryptocurrency and regular currency are, it is an attempt to bring those two advantages into one. Regular currencies have much more, hold their value in a much more stable manner. So does this. Its value is linked to the dollar. If dollar is stable, JP Morgan coin is stable. What cryptocurrencies bring are, other than transparency, speed of transactions, cost of transaction being down. Those two things are being brought into this attempt. It will be interesting to see how successful this attempt will be, and JP Morgan coin is built on top of a blockchain, the other thing worth mentioning. And the way this system works, the coins are issued when somebody buys. We know in the case of Bitcoin and Ether, if somebody mines coins, new coins get created and they stay there, they become like currency. Unlike them, the JP Morgan digital coin, They are issued when somebody buys, somebody gives $10 and say give me JP Morgan coin, 10 digital dollars are created. Then when those $10 get settled and get converted back by any other party back into dollars or any other currency, those coins will be destroyed. One more way in which this currency is different from those currencies. Essentially it is an exchange token, it is more than a currency, it is more of an exchange token, but in some circles it is being referred to as a digital currency. So, this is an interesting experiment towards a stable coin. There are many other attempts also, and indeed many commentators have commented that this is not truly a cryptocurrency, and they are right in a sense, this is more a exchange token. But interesting thing is, one of the world's largest banks has found it fit to exploit this technology to get its advantages. So, that tells us where the trend is heading. There, of course, with advantages there is always drawbacks, and there are quite a few when it comes to the cryptocurrency world. One is that unlike regular currencies, fiat currencies, where there is a standard mechanism for deciding their exchange rate, open currencies like US dollar and Hong Kong dollar, Singapore dollar, or a US pound, British pound, the open market, there are various private exchanges which tell you what is their value on a day to day basis. Controlled or semi controlled currencies, their national bank says what is the exchange rate every day, and most organizations, most countries tend to keep it fairly predictable. So, at any point we can interchange. We know that if I have pounds today, I can always convert it into the Fijian dollar, I can always convert it into the Saudi dirham, I can always convert it into the Indian rupee. Like I think Saudi is rial, if it is not a dirham, it is rial. So, you can convert it into a Saudi rial. So, we have standard known mechanisms of exchangeability between these currencies. Unfortunately, such a thing is not there in the realm of cryptocurrencies. There are so many cryptocurrencies in the world, there is no standard method to convert all them, each exchange follows its own method, they cannot be easily interchanged, various problems, that is one of the big problems. Second, one of the functions, most important function of money we have seen is as a medium of exchange. I do not have to accept, if I am selling you pizza, I do not have to accept wheat back from you, I accept money and buy something else. Money functions as the medium of exchange. Cryptocurrencies do not have a widespread acceptance as a medium of exchange. The most popular cryptocurrency Bitcoin is only accepted only by a limited number of merchants across the world. 2 million may seem a big number, but number of accepting points in the world, it is a very small fraction. So, there is no widespread adoption of cryptocurrencies for transaction. They are still being used as a store of value, as a tradable security. And third, cryptocurrencies are not accepted as legal tender. It is not universally accepted, no country is allowing, they must, like in the form of rupee. Instead of you giving rupees, I cannot give Bitcoin or Litecoin everywhere. And many regulatory authorities are very worried about cryptocurrencies, they are very wary. One of the reasons they have not approved is that pseudonymity, that is transactions are not fully open, we cannot trace every transaction to an individual, we can trace it to an account or an entity. This pseudonymity is being widely suspected of being used for various illegal activities. So, that is one more reason why they are not gaining acceptance. And one big problem with cryptocurrencies, coins if they get destroyed, that is if I have Bitcoin or Ether or a Litecoin, if I lose my key, that digitally encrypted file, do not have a backup, there is no way I can recover that. Coins can be lost permanently. In fact, thanks to this characteristic of cryptocurrencies, couple of slides earlier I talked about total number of Bitcoins reaching a maximum of 21 million. It is now known that it will never reach 21 million, because at least about 500,000 Bitcoins have already been lost. So, the number of Bitcoins ultimately which will be issued will be much lesser than 21 million. So, that is one of the problems with cryptocurrencies, we really need to guard them carefully. Any IT system can be hacked, it can be modified, it can be forked. So, all cryptocurrencies based on any IT system are also susceptible to all this. They can be hacked, the blockchain can be forked into two, which leads to a lot of confusion later. There may be other kinds of attacks which we will look at it in a later class. So, cryptocurrencies are susceptible to all these kinds of drawbacks. And finally, something that has already been highlighted upon, the currencies are already only backed by market forces, no tangible assets. Let us take a theoretical example, hypothetical example. There is some cryptocurrency built on a blockchain and everybody sees lot of value in that. So, people bid up, people say I am willing to pay so many dollars for this particular cryptocurrency. So, its value goes up. So, its value is $500 today, after about a month it goes up to $600. So, it is worthwhile for me to buy. I may go and buy that currency. I buy it at $500 today in the hope that it will go to 600, 700 and on and on. Many cryptocurrencies have gone through this system, but it is not linked. It is only now the only way I can get $600 for my crypto coin is some other party is willing to pay 600, because if he or she thinks it is going to gain value. So, it is only backed by market forces and no other currency. There is no guaranteeing authority, there is no single authority which owns and guides a cryptocurrency. So, if tomorrow, God forbid, the blockchain on which this particular cryptocurrency is based upon is hacked, the currency may lose its value to 0 right away. There may be no more buyers for this currency. People are worried, it has already been hacked, I may lose my currency, they are no longer willing to buy. So, all the people who are holding that cryptocurrency may see the value of that coin going down to 0, which pretty much never happens with a fiat currency. It may lose value a lot, like it has happened in countries with hyperinflation, but still there will be a central authority trying to control the process. Here, due to some external factor like somebody hacking into the blockchain, the cryptocurrency may lose value completely. So, that is one more risk to be kept in mind. It is a market risk because of the nature, because of the way we are dealing with cryptocurrencies today. As we go along, we will discover more and more strengths in cryptocurrencies. We may also come across more drawbacks, some of the things to keep in mind before we dabble in cryptocurrencies. This brings us to the end of our 5th lecture. Thank you.